2 days ago, that is Tuesday morning, the Legislative Council Commission had a discussion on the security arrangements for the electrical complex this Friday. At that meeting, we made some decisions. We also instructed the Secretariat to, in the last 2 days, take up discussions with the police. The purpose is to see how we could ensure that demonstration taking place around the complex would be carried out in an orderly manner, and how any violent protests could be prevented. Now, after the Secretariat has talked to the police this morning, the Secretariat gave a report to the Electoral Commission this morning. And then the Electoral Commission, on the basis of the discussion outcome between the Secretariat and the police, and on the basis of ongoing developments in the past 2 days, the Electoral Commission has made certain decisions this morning, and now we would like to brief you on those decisions. Before I go to the briefing, though, I would first of all like to invite you to take a look at this. That is, this morning, members of the Electoral Commission reviewed what happened in the past week, and some information posted on the internet in the past few days. So this is what members saw this morning. I would like to first let you see these materials. Yes, first there are closed-circuit TV video that we have captured, and also photographs that we've taken, and these have been shown at Electoral Commission meeting. There were several segments. First segment, as you can see here, is when people started together at the beginning of the demonstration or protest. At that time, there was relative peace amongst those expressing their views. But then from this CCTV image, you see there were individuals wearing masks and gloves. So they have caught our attention. Now, in this next set of photographs, you see soon after, some protesters moved the mill barriers in the demonstration zone. They stacked up the mill barriers. At that time, I sought instructions from the Electoral Commission chairman and also the chairman and deputy chairman of the House Committee. We should ask the police for assistance as necessary, and we would first alert the police to that. And then later on in the evening, you all took pictures of various incidents taking place. I wouldn't go into details about these incidents. There were people climbing up to the canopy to have banners, and then there were also others who disrupted the meeting inside the chamber. And then after 8:30 p.m. or so, the commotion started to set in. You can see from this footage, that's high-angle CCTV. There was suddenly a group of people rushing towards the entrance. You could see what happened here. There were some of you who took pictures or videos of what happened at closer distance. But then from we have this aerial footage, so you could see the whole picture, hopefully. See, as soon as they pull the mill barriers, it's gone, because there were quite a lot of people rushing towards the mill barriers at the same time. After they pulled away the mill barriers, they all rushed to the door. They tried to pry open the door. Perhaps in the next photo, you could see this more clearly from another angle. This is another footage from a different angle. You could see the milk barriers. They were moved and pulled away. And in the course, some got injured, and that included some of our security officers. Now, it would be dangerous if someone should trip in front and people behind didn't know. We could have a repeat of the Lan Kwai Fong tragedy. Here, you can see that the milk barriers were pulled around. And you could see people were pushed or, around these barriers. Next set of photos, you see the injured security officers. You can see the leg was injured. Actually, eventually found there was a bone fracture in one of the digits, and he had to stay in hospital for a day. Although he was subsequently discharged, he would have to take a break for a relatively long time. So on that night, 6 security officers were hurt, and on the previous occasion, 14 officers were hurt. The next footage, you see, outside the main entrance, there was reinforcement of police officers, and they together held the door, or held close the door. You see the protesters tried to use bamboo poles from their banners to bang at the door and to prise it open. The next footage, again, is the outside of the complex. It's the other side this time. That is where the electrical garden is. In other words, it's on the side of the main lobby. That is the side of the canteen. That is where the temporary entrance is now. Here, you can see there's a large number of people pulling away the milk barriers, and they try to storm into the electrical garden area. We found out later that some people rushed into the car park through this garden, but that they were unable to gain access to the upper floors. The next image shows you the location where the milk barriers were pulled away. No, I think you have skipped one slide. Okay, yes, that's right. Let's talk about this footage first. This is the members' entrance. This is the members' entrance. There was a large number of people rushing over there. Again, they attempted to pull open the door. And as the president just pointed out, it's actually rather dangerous. There's a large number of people. There were also journalists among them. If anyone should trip and fall, it could lead to large-scale injuries. The other angle here is the electrical garden. After the mill barriers were removed, some actually used the mill barriers to bang at the emergency entrance. I noticed that some TV reporters managed to capture the incident at the ground level. The next two photos show you the emergency entrance, and you can see the extent of damage to this entrance. So this was what happened on that day. In recent days, there continues to be posting of comments about the electrical complex. We have selected a few pieces to show you. As it's said here, since there would be heavy security measures on Friday, some suggested taking action on Wednesday and Thursday, and some suggested storming the chamber on Friday. And then you see different some groups try to publicize the event tomorrow. That is, they want to totally barricade the electrical complex. So they try to publicize this event. So that's all by way of the presentation. Well, as I said, on Tuesday at the Electrical Commission meeting, we made some decisions on security arrangements for tomorrow's Finance Committee meeting. Let me repeat, perhaps. Tomorrow, all guided tours and school tours and educational tours will be suspended. And then all other services to the public, including visits to the electrical library, archives, and children's corner, will be suspended. On that day, in the public gallery where meetings are held, we will allow no more than 10 members of the public in the public gallery, because as the Secretary General just explained, since 2 weeks ago, quite a number of security colleagues have been injured, and then tomorrow we have to deploy a large number of security officers in the demonstration zones and outside the complex. That's why in the public gallery we could only allow at most 10 members of the public to observe a meeting. We're also taking measures to reduce as far as possible the number of staff working in the complex. First of all, the Secretariat has given leave to most officers who do not have to be on duty. So tomorrow, for the size of the Secretariat staff working in the complex, that has been reduced to the minimum. Of course, our security colleagues will have to stay here. And there are some summer interns working at the Secretariat where they've been informed not to come in tomorrow. For electrical members, well, there are actually some 200 members' assistants working in the complex, and we have appealed to members to tell their members' assistants not to come in unless absolutely necessary tomorrow. And then for visitors, including members' visitors, they will not be allowed into the building. And for our car park, there will be no visitors' parking spaces opened or allowed. And as for our cafeteria, depending on circumstances, we may suspend its service. Like last week, all members' assistants will be denied access to the first, second, and third floors. If members' assistants need to hand any documents to members, like last week, they could do so through. They should do so by passing on a document to the Secretariat, and the Secretariat will give the documents to the members concerned. Now, we've been observing developments over the past few days. As you could see just now, there's still an appeal online for people to come and storm the electrical building. And even in the past day or two, we find there are some rather irregular activities in this complex. We find that for some in the guided tours in the past 2 days, they've acted rather strangely. For instance, they took pictures deliberately of some of our facilities. That's not, the usual kind of photo taking when people come here just to take photos to show they've been in this building. And our staff heard them speak among themselves. As some members passed by, for instance, they were rather hostile. Some even uttered some rude words as they commented on a particular member. And then it's also found that after the guided tour, some gathered in the cafeteria as if they were hatching some sort of a plan. But of course, it's hard for us to speculate on anything. But of course, and we've seen also some who try to use their visitors pass to see where they could access on each floor. Some was holding layout plan of the building, and they were checking each entrances against that plan, and they tried to see if their visitors pass could gain access to through a particular entrance. Now, this is not something usual visitors would do, and that's actually alerted us. So we had, and then the Secretariat had discussions with the police over the past 2 days. Apart from the measures I just mentioned, we've now decided that from 2:30 p.m. tomorrow, we would not allow anyone to go into the electrical complex, with the exception of members. Of course, members would have to have access to the building, Secretariat staff working here, and reporters. Other than that, there may have been some who have made appointments to come to electrical. For example, those who've registered to come and observe meetings, a batch of no more than 10 for each meeting. Apart from these people, for security reasons, for security management, from 2:30 p.m. onwards tomorrow, no one will be allowed access into the building. If it becomes clear to us that there were people that were involved in the last 2 storming exercise, like people who've been arrested by the police or prosecuted, we know the names of these people, and then tomorrow, even tomorrow morning, we won't allow these people to come in because we don't want them to gain access in the morning and then try to plan something. No. So that's about access to the complex.
Apart from that, this morning at the meeting, we have seriously discussed the order pertaining to protest activities and also the safety in the protest zones and the management of that safety. As you all know, well, 2 Fridays before, and in particular on the 13th of June, with the violence and the events that took place, basically it was in the protest zone where a lot of protesters amassed, and the events took place after the amassing of those protesters in large numbers in that zone. As the Secretariat had presented to you the images just now, it is outside of public entrance 1. There were a lot of protesters amassing in the protest zone, and thereafter the storming of the Lechko complex took place. And we were able to very clearly see that in the protest zone outside of public entrance 1 and all the way to the 2 flagpoles, that whole area, well, actually come under the management of the Lechko. The safety and peace of that area is the responsibility of the Lechko Commission and the Lechko Secretariat. The protest zone therein is for peaceful demonstrations. That's the design purpose. And in the past, we have numerous times conducted peaceful demonstrations in that zone, and there had never been any violent incidents in the past. And in managing the order of protests and demonstrations and managing the crowds of the demonstrators, there had never been incidents. Now, you have to know that this area where there are major violent events, how the mobs are to be managed. There are no measures or no devices or equipment to maintain that. Well, you saw the mill barriers. We thought that that was for the purpose of stopping the masses if there should be a rushing towards the complex. However, because the mill barriers are not stapled to the grounds, therefore, with some pulling, the mill barriers were removed, even though the mill barriers were linked up in large numbers, where you have a big crowd moving in tandem in concert. The mill barriers were removed, and dangers arose. And really, we're not even talking about the mill barriers being dislodged and used as weapons. We saw from the images that some of the demonstrators actually moved the mill barriers en masse and then rushed onto the complex. The other protesters in the vicinity, and even you journalists, were under injury threat. And we were able to see from the images and from the design, there had not been any design and thinking about where there are major violent incidents, how we are able to protect the people on site and how we are able to maintain their safety. There is no such devices, not in that area outside public entrance 1. Where there are large expanses of glass outside certain buildings, we sometimes see certain gates or grill which can be lowered, or shutters which can be lowered, which will prevent the demolition or of the glass. And last time in the incident, there was such an incident, and that is with that kind of pushing and jostling and storming. And indeed, in the on the internet, we were able to see certain messages saying that the doors were very difficult to prise open, and the messages say if we are to get inside, we have to smash the glass. Indeed, we saw such messages. So if there are any such force on the glass, even though on the internet some messages talked about how one is to protect oneself if the glass should smash. But given the large amount of people involved and with the people rushing towards the complex, really we do not have the capabilities with what we have now to protect the safety and safeguard the safety of those on site where there are such major stormings. And also in terms of deployment of our security colleagues, whether from the number, from their equipment, from their trainings point of view, we have never prepared for this kind of scenario. And some of you would have noticed that during this period, because we have to prepare for security measures that we have to take, we have, apart from the 10-odd security guards, we have commissioned new security guards. But the rumors are incorrect. The rumors are incorrect as to some of the ways where we have commissioned additional force. But the LegCo Commission indeed had looked at the possibility of temporary security guards to support our existing security guards, because some of our security guards have been injured. But it is not easy. It is not easy to find these security personnel who are willing and who are capable to take up such responsibilities. So I cannot say at this point that we have this safeguard. So from the design of the site, from the personnel numbers, our projection is that we do not have the capabilities and powers within the LegCo to safeguard the peace and order within the area. And because the said area is managed by the LegCo, we have gone into details with the police. The police will not be able to, before there are any violent incidents come onto the site, to prevent violence. They cannot do so simply because this is an area that come under our responsibility. As the Secretariat had explained just now, even though there were over 1,000 protesters gathering in the area without incident, the police cannot come in to build a wall, for instance, with the policemen, or segregate the crowd into different sections, etc. They cannot take action at all. This is a private area, and you cannot say that burglars may come into my house and therefore the police should be stationed in my house. That cannot be. And the police have made it clear to us they cannot be our security guards. So it is only with violent incidents where the problem had already taken place, only then would the police be able to come onto site. But that is too late. As you can see from the images, the mill barriers were already removed and they were used as weapons to pillage the LegCo complex. And that is too late for the police to come in. And at the meeting this morning, from the area outside of public entrance 1 to the area outside of the LegCo complex, as I have mentioned just now, will not be open to public demonstrations, because if there is a big mass gathering in that area, from what we have gathered in the past 2 days, we cannot guarantee that they will not storm the LegCo complex. So where there is a large gathering of protesters' mass, as we have been discussing with the police, we are not able to prevent violent incidents from happening, and we are not able to protect or safeguard the safety of people around and also the safety of the LegCo. And therefore, in our discussions with the police, the most appropriate protest area is therefore around the Timei Road and LegCo Road, or Timei Avenue. That is a bigger area, and in fact there's a protest area for the LegCo right there, and there is a flyover construction site nearby, and we have done site visits, and we believe that there is sufficient space to allow the demonstrators and protesters to gather. Yes, let us look at the picture, please. Yes, if you can see right here, this is the LegCo building facing Timei Avenue and the LegCo Road. Right here, there are some construction works being carried out, but it will only block a very small part of the space, whereas this whole area marked in red is relatively spacious, and we believe that this should be sufficient to accommodate the protesters. We have also talked to the police, and they believe that if the protesters are to amass here, the police will be able to, relatively speaking, keep order. That is to say, they will be, relatively speaking, be able to maintain order and also carry out safety and security measures. And therefore, at the meeting this morning of the LegCo Commission, we have decided that for tomorrow, the protest area will be moved. Well, some people say from the drum or from the parking area, that is the area outside of public entrance 1. We will ask our protesters to move to the area mentioned just now. That is the area facing Timei Avenue and LegCo Road. And there were individual members at the meeting this morning who said that they have heard certain views, because in the past 2 days there had been in the media saying that we might be closing off the protest areas, and some individuals at the meeting harbored reservations as to whether we should close that protest area or do we close it down permanently, and if so, would it be discouraging for public demonstrations and letting their views known. So we are in a stage of considering very seriously how we can improve on that protest area so that we can safeguard, where there are future protests, be able to manage the security and safety of the people on site. But at present, having regard to what happened last Friday, if we are to say we will continue to open that protest area tomorrow, the risks are simply too high. Now, outside of the public entrance 1, the original protest area, the doors there in that area have sustained different degrees of damage. And if there should be another infringement or storming, they may not be able to hold. And therefore, we have this measure for tomorrow. And that is, yes, indeed, outside of this LegCo building, there is this protest area for protest purposes. But for tomorrow, the space, an area that we will make open for protest, would also be appropriate for such purpose. So that is the decision we have reached this morning at the meeting. And again, I would want to appeal to the protesters who are planning to come tomorrow to be peaceful in the expression of the views. And for certain persons who will be using violent means to attack the electrical building. We sincerely appeal that others do not follow and rush the electrical building because it is simply dangerous. We saw from the CCTV images that indeed it is very worrying. If there are people in the front rushing the building and the others in the back who were originally peaceful, if they also follow suit, we will run very high risks of injuries. Yes, I think that was the meeting's decisions this morning. Anything else?
Any questions, please, from the floor?
Why you think this area is better for protesting, is safer than the other areas that you're closing now?
The area originally and usually open to the public for protests and demonstrations was designed for peaceful demonstrations. And as you all know, many peaceful demonstrations have taken place there without any incident at all. What happened last week and the week before last sent a very worrying signal to the Electoral Commission. We all understand that the design of the space, the facilities there, cannot withstand any kind of violent action. As you can see, the barricades we tried to set up there were pulled down very easily because there were simply no points of, for us to fix those barricades. They were pulled down very easily, and they can easily become weapons, and when they fall down, they can pose very serious threats to the safety of the people around. At the same time, the glass panels facing that area, including the public entrances, were actually damaged during the violent actions last week, and they may not be able to withhold further ramming from the protesters. That is why we decided, the Electoral Commission this morning decided that it is no longer safe to open that area for public demonstrations. The police made it very clear that they cannot intervene unless and until violent actions are taking place. So even when a large number of people are gathered in the space, the police cannot take precautions against any violent action. That is why we have decided that the protesters should move over to this area facing Tim May Road and the Legislative Council Road. We believe it is a much safer and also an appropriate space for the demonstrations.
President, 2 questions, please. First, about the Tim May Avenue demonstration. So how come it's safer than the original zone? And is it because the police has agreed to station police officers there? And would you be afraid that there will be protesters rushing towards the road, so paralyzing traffic there? Second question. Now, those who've been identified in the last protest action, they would not be allowed entry into the building. So that, in other words, those who've been identified, is it the case that in future they won't be allowed entry into the building in future? Well, the security arrangement I mentioned applies only to tomorrow, because tomorrow is a special case. And we have to be very sure that a particular person has actually taken part in some violent actions, or they might even have been involved in planning such actions. For example, those who have been arrested by the police or who have been prosecuted. For the others, of course, we cannot identify them. You saw there was much chaos. Now, there were people holding the milk barrier to ram at the wall. We couldn't identify all of them. But anyway, for tomorrow, because we have suspended all services to the public and all guided tours, there should be no reason for people to come into the complex. So our security colleagues will pay special attention. If someone wants to come into the complex, we'll see whether they are probably those who've been taken part in those activities. So that's all we will do. Now, for the site by Timei Avenue and Leshko Road, you know, in the past there have been major demonstrations. So the police has experience how to handle such demonstrations. They've got plenty of experience. And that is a public area. It's not under the jurisdiction of the Legislative Council. So when members of the public demonstrate there, they will have to comply with the relevant laws and regulations on public assembly and demonstration, and that would not be a matter for LegCo. And the police gives us the signal, this message, that is, if the protesters should carry out their activities there, the police has more confidence that they could manage the situation more effectively. Your communication with the police tomorrow, would it be like the last 2 Fridays? That is, the Secretary will first consult the 3 of you before reporting to the police. And then there was a complaint from a LegCo member that last week, before the Secretariat called in the police, the members were not consulted. Now it's about intervention of the police now. Of course, in public places, if the police enforces the law, it's not a matter for us. But when it comes to the police coming into the LegCo area, like the LegCo Square and the LegCo complex, these are all managed by the LegCo. If the police are to come in, it's only because it's on our request. And when will the police be called in? We have clear criteria to go by. That is, the Secretary General will consult the chairman of the LegCo Commission, that is myself, and the 2 ex-officio members of the LegCo Commission, i.e. the chairman and deputy chairman of the House Committee. So we all have to give our consent before they will call in the police. That's what we did last Friday. So as far as possible, the Secretary General will also inform other LegCo Commission members. We actually did that too last week. And you know, of course, sometimes the situation could be such that it is so pressing, and there are more than 10 members in the LegCo Commission. If we have to seek the consent of each and every member, there might be difficulties. And also at the time when the incident took place, the Finance Committee was having a meeting, and most LegCo Commission members were at the meeting. For instance, the FC chairman was also a LegCo Commission member. So it's difficult to approach every member of the LegCo Commission and seek his or her consent. But then I've not heard any complaints from members about the arrangement last week. And for tomorrow, we're doing the same. If we need to call in the police, we want the police to come into the areas managed by the LegCo Commission, that is the LegCo complex and the vicinity of the complex under the management of LegCo Commission. The Secretary General will first consult the chairman of the LegCo Commission and the 2 ex-officio members first. President, what we see is that outside the demonstration zone, a lot of holes have been drilled and barricades have been put up. So how come protesters couldn't go back to the original demonstration zone? And if you now use a new demonstration zone, have you started a poor precedent, or would you say it's a one-off arrangement? What if there's a similar situation in the future? What would be the arrangement? And can I ask how many more security officers have you employed? And I see this morning they're measuring some wooden boards against the size of the glass panes. What's the purpose of that? For your first question, I already gave a detailed explanation as to why, if we allow protesters to go back to that demonstration zone for demonstration, it'd be very dangerous. Now, you said it's a bad precedent. If we should ignore the information we've been brought attention to in the past few days, and we ignore the advice of the police, and at the end there were casualties and fatalities, that would be a bad precedent. And that's why we are now taking such precautionary measures for the sake of safety. As for the demonstration zone facing the Timei Avenue and the Legislative Council Road, this is the spot where we propose protesters to go to. In the past, there's been demonstrations carried out there. It's not a new demonstration zone as such. On demonstration activities and larger congregation of people there, the police has already got experience in managing such activities. So I couldn't see how this arrangement would set a bad precedent, because we believe this is the best arrangement. Now, how many more we have employed, and what about those hoardings? Perhaps the Secretary General could provide the information. Well, as the President has explained, there are some of our security officers have been injured, so we need to hire temporary security guards through security companies. On the number, it depends on the situation. It depends on the actual needs tomorrow, or even over the weekend. That's why it's hard for us to decide on particular arrangement. But we have enough manpower. Together with the assistance of the police, we would be able to maintain the order around the electrical complex. The wooden boards or the hoardings, where there's cracked glass pane, and that's been hoarded up. And we are now considering whether for other glass panes they should be protected with hoardings. But then there are different considerations. We're now in discussion with the works personnel. Of course, the primary consideration is to minimize accidents, and we always put safety first. President, I'm from the SCMP. 2 questions. The Electoral Commission has considered all these ways to restrict public activities. Would it give the objective impression that you are restricting the rights of the public to demonstrate or protest? And as the President, you serve as the bridge between the executive and the legislature. So as the Electoral Commission hatches all these plans, are you actually trying to defend or protect the government so they don't need to listen to public views on the Northeast New Territories development? I'll take your second question first. Is it that if we allow the public to storm Leshko or break things in Leshko, then we could force the government to listen to public views? Here, we are not trying to stop the people from making known their views or from protesting, but rather we are trying to see where we could find the safest and the most suitable spot for people to demonstrate before we consider any other measures. So that's why you see we've made these arrangements. For those who want to express their views in a peaceful manner, their rights must be fully respected. There must be no limiting of their rights. So this morning we proposed these measures, and National Commission members all agree. That is, we need to express our views. We should allow people to express their views in a peaceful manner. At the same time, we have the duty to protect the electoral complex. We must also ensure the safety of people in and around the complex. That's very important. If there should be any conflict between the two considerations, safety must always come first. But then it's not the case that as we try to ensure safety, we take or we deny the public's right to express their views. No, that's not the case. So that's why tomorrow still people could still come and protest and make known their views. As to how the government would respond to those views is a matter for the government. For members, they would of course appeal to the public to the government to respect public views. But then we do not believe resorting to violence is an acceptable way of expressing views in Hong Kong and forcing the government to listen to the public views. No, I don't think Hong Kong accepts that.
Mr. Chairman, you mentioned just now if the police are to take enforcement actions. What did you say? You were saying if the police is to take enforcement actions in public areas, the LegCo would not ask questions about that. But on the other hand, it was mentioned last week that the lobby is also public area. Now, if the police is to take enforcement actions in the lobby of the LegCo, do you not need... Well, I think I have been very bad in my ability to communicate. I have tried so many times to make clarifications, but with such very high degree of understanding abilities of our media friends, there is still a misunderstanding. Well, for public area doesn't mean that anybody can come in and sit down and take a rest. Now, for Teme Avenue, the pavement pedestrian walkway is public area, and anybody can take a walk on that pedestrian walkway. But the LegCo lobby is definitely not a public area in that sense, but it is open to the public in the sense that the public are welcome into the LegCo. They will have to go through certain simple procedures, and we provide certain facilities such as public library. We welcome tour groups and visiting groups, and we also welcome children into our children activities rooms. All these are open to the public, but it doesn't mean that these are public areas. Public libraries, if you will, or the city hall, if you will. These are areas usable or open to the public, but these areas are definitely not the same as the pedestrian walkways. And the police, they do not have a role within the LegCo building. And if they come into the LegCo area, they will need the LegCo's approval for so doing. Mr. Chairman, in the past couple of days, we see the mill barriers put all around the LegCo building. And we also see the new protest area, and the police will be stationed there, as we understand. How much public money are you deploying for extra security guards, and do you need extra security guards? And now we are also seeing a lot of these barricades and mill barriers. After the Friday meeting, will they still be positioned there? As I have mentioned just now, the police will be responsible for peace and order in the public areas. As for the areas managed by the LegCo itself, including the protest area, which will not be open to the public tomorrow, also come under the management of the LegCo. And there are mill barriers positioned in that area. However, if there are people who want to rush or to go through those barriers, they are still able to do so. And therefore, we need to station personnel there. And if there are a lot of such people, we will need police assistance. But as I have mentioned just now, the front line, the first line of management is really the LegCo, and particularly in the form of LegCo security guards. As mentioned just now, we have a number of security guards who were injured, as explained just now. And for the order within the LegCo building, even though we have lowered to the minimum the number of public members going into the building tomorrow, but in any case, they are still members of the public. So we have to maintain security and safety therein. And also, as mentioned, there were in the public galleries certain persons trying to create disturbance there. And all these need our security guards' attention. And tomorrow, the front, if you will, is rather long, and therefore we need more personnel. What did you say? Excuse me? Will you take away the barricades? Well, of course, if we have no need for them, we will take them away. We have to make assessments. We do hope that tomorrow will be completely peaceful. And all these preventive measures are totally unnecessary to be carried out. We do not know, however. As you all know, last Friday, we never thought that we will not be able to restore peace until almost dawn. So for these facilities and designs, when do we take it off? We do not know. But when they are not necessary, they will be taken off. Thank you very much for coming.